district. I live in Springfield, and they were like, so we're trying to find someone close enough so that they can continue going to school in that district. And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, for a week, I can drive them to school in Republic. I can handle that. They still live with me. And
you still drive them to school in Republic.
I still drive them to school in Republic every day. And so there was a point where, I was like, so like, what's the timeline on things exactly or whatever? And they were like, well, there's this investigation happening in the home that they were previously in, and they're supposed to resolve in 30 to 45 days. So any day now, we should have a resolution on that. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was like every time we'd have a meeting, I'm like, so do we have a resolution on anything? And they're like, nope, not yet. And I was like, okay. And it sucks for the kid, because like she's like, I want to go back to the home I was in before, and the home she was in before wasn't the home that she grew up in. It was another foster home that's in Republic. Her family's back in Lebanon, so I mean, like, so she's just kind of like all over the place or whatever, and that sucks for her. And then I think specifically for her, I mean, both of my kids basically had lived in households where there was an abusive stepdad kind of situation, and she does not respond well to me. Like I'm just another jerk of a guy basically to her, and I'm a single foster parent, so there's no like mom there or something to like mediate me or something, or mitigate, I don't know, to like, so she's just stuck with me, and so that sucks for her, I'm sure. So, and at the same time, talking about timelines or whatever, like, I feel this pressure in that, like, she's 17, the other kid is 16. I'm like, I just met you, and I feel like I have to prepare you to be an adult in 9 months. Okay. And so, like, I feel like I'm like way too hard on them. And at the same time, I'm just like, but if you don't learn these things quickly, like, it's gonna screw things up for you later on. And so I'm trying to help you, and I realize it doesn't seem like that to you. So that's that side of things. I don't know. I think I'm rambling. I'm gonna stop.
No, you're not. But I wanna ask you a question, because you and I have had some conversations about your volunteerism and your passion for our unsheltered community too, and now having kids that will approach an aging out date in your home.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation before of like, do we need to like teach them survival skills?
Oh yeah.
Because horrible possibility, and like I just want to name that and acknowledge that, because I don't. I'm
like, let's go camping so that you can learn how to live outside if you have to in a year.
Right.
Like,
because in Springfield, our resources are so stretched thin that even though there are some good programs, for a wide variety of reasons, right? Whether we don't have enough funding, whether trauma forces kids down a different path for a while. I mean, heck, I went down a different path just as an 18-year-old who didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And so, that timeline, that season, talk a little bit about just that fear for you and that uncertainty, because you do live kind of in this duality of some different existences in our community.
Yeah, so one of my jobs is as the Justice Coordinator with National Avenue Christian Church, and we partner to run a crisis cold weather shelter in the winter time, and then we also do a weekly meal for kind of adult unsheltered folks that we do out of the basement of Grace United Methodist Church, or veterans coming home, depending on what time of year it is. We also help provide a meal at the Glow Center and at Rare Breed on a monthly basis. But so, I mean, quite literally, I was at the meal service last Monday, and this guy like blew up at somebody, just yelling and cussing from across the room or whatever, and he'd walked over asking me to see if I could find a pair of pants for him, because it was a cold day and it was raining and he was just wearing a pair of shorts. And I was like, let me go look. And then I had to leave looking because I heard screaming and yelling. And so I come back out of the closet where the pants are or whatever, and this guy's yelling, and so we're trying to get him to calm down a little bit, but it's not working. And so I'm just like, okay, you have to leave now. And like after he was out the door and gone, I'm like, and he doesn't have pants now, all because he got like really upset with somebody. And I was like, and I was just like, I could see one of my kids doing like acting just like that, and he felt like he was the person being wronged, you know, and that he was trying to stand up for himself by shouting. And I was like, I get that you feel that way, and also this just isn't appropriate. Like it disrupts everybody else in the room, and like so you just can't respond like that. And so like that's where like, and I can like see one of my kids doing that, you know, and just being like, how do I teach you to like not do that so that you can get like, yes, like everything is effed up and wrong in the world, and it's not fair and it's unjust, and you have every right to scream about it. And if you scream about it, you're not going to get what you need. So
walk away with no pants.
Yeah. And so like that piece of things, and I'm trying to get one of them to like their cell phone is on the fritz and they don't actually have service for it. And so I'm like, check out the like free government phone, like right. Google it and figure out how to apply for it. And the push there is like, you're gonna have to do a lot of this kind of stuff in your life. You're gonna have to fill out stupid government bureaucratic forms in order to get the resources that you need. So like, do a little test run on a cell phone, you know? And she's not interested in doing that or whatever, and it's not really working. And in the meantime, when she runs away, I can't get a hold of her because her phone doesn't work. So like, I'm like, I think I have to rethink that one for the time being, or at least like sit with her and do it or something like that to get to that first step.
Yeah. And
I think too, like, it's something you mentioned earlier, just about the other people, like she and I got, and you know, like it was just like somebody mentioned that the car rides with the kids were like this treasured time. It has been miserable driving this kid to school for the last week. Like, she's pissed at me. I'm, you know, like I'm not happy with her. You know, like, I'm waiting for an apology that's not coming or something like that. And so one day, you know, like I dropped her off and she'd made some snide comment about like, no wonder I wasn't married or something, and I was just like, ouch.
They always know where to get you.
They do. Right? And so I called my little brother and I was like, hey, what are you doing this afternoon at 3? Do you want to drive to Republic and pick up my kid? And he did, and then he was like, if you want me to drop her off at school in the morning, I could do that too. And I was like, would you please? Thank you. And then, you know, this weekend, one of my friends was like, you guys want to come over and like do s'mores or whatever? And I was like, yes. And I just like sat there exhausted, like rocking in a patio chair, like staring at the flames while they like were fine, you know, and entertained or whatever. And I was just like, thank you. Like right after I got the second kid in my home, you know, this is the beauty of a church community too. Like people just started like, hey, I had this extra casserole, can I drop it off? And I was like, yeah, sure. I don't know what it is, but we'll eat it. Yes, thank you. I don't have to think about food.
But teenagers' food is always an appropriate
gift. Yes, it is. Yes. So yeah, just people just like, and there were sometimes people would be like, would you let me know what it is or help or whatever? And I was just like, I don't know. Can you just do something? I don't know what it is. Like, it'll probably be fine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think that's part of, I mean, that's true. I think whether it's a single foster parent or a single parent that's trying to hold on to their kids or make it, you know, in the world, or multi-parent households who are still just like trying to get through. Like if you're, I had a neighbor in Boulder who, when we moved in, there was this cheap-looking bamboo thing, like zip-tied to the chain link fence in between the two yards. And I walked out there, and my neighbor was in the yard, and I was like, is this yours? Like, what's up with this? Because it was only like part of the fence line. Really just basically the part of the fence line where you could see the neighbor's yard, sort of. And I was like, so what's up with this? You know, did you want this for privacy or something? And she was like, no. She was like, I was pregnant. She's like, I decided to do like IVF at like 50 because I wanted a kid and I didn't have one yet. And so she's like, so I was pregnant and 50 and working these crazy hours. My lawn got kind of tall, and my neighbor commented on it, and the person who lived in my house before me. And then like the next week, she put up this bamboo thing. And I was like, instead of offering to help you mow your lawn, she just decided to like block it off so she couldn't see you. I was like, that's an interesting choice. And I like pulled my pocket knife out of my pocket, and just as I'm like undoing zip ties, talking to her, and I was like, okay, well, this thing is going away now. And we had a beautiful relationship with her and her kids. So I think just, look around and help out your neighbors.
Yeah, just see people.
Yeah, see people.
Yeah, I think, again, that goes back to that community call to action, right? We can all do something, and even if you don't know what to do, like, just find something, right? Like a gift card, bring coffee, mow a lawn, make a casserole, whatever. It goes a long, long way. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of, and I think this comes sometimes from the desperation of caseworkers trying to find placements, and it comes from a shortage of foster homes and places to send kids. We are seeing kids that are so often separated from siblings. We have kiddos that are moved hours away from parents just to find a place that they can determine is safe enough for them. That I know a lot of foster parents get a phone call like you got that's like, hey, can you take this kiddo just for a few days, or you just have to do this, or just this, and there'll be all these other support, and then it ends up being a lot longer than a few days. It ends up being not just being a safe place for them to sleep at night, but they have to drive that kiddo to their school in a different city. They have to drive them to all their doctor's appointments, their counseling appointment. They then have to attend FST meetings and be driving to those things. And if it's an old enough kiddo who wants to participate, they have to drive them there. If they have parent-child visits, that caseworker may be like, can you drive them? Like, there's no one else. Can you drive them? And so I know a lot of our foster parents, like, if you can get them to say what they need, they're going to be like, well, really, I need a vacation. Like, but I don't have anyone who can take these kiddos. Mm-hmm. And respite beds are so you can actually just be a respite foster home. And so you just take kids for short-term weekends, like for weeks, over holidays or over weekends, so that foster parents can just go on vacation or get a day off or get a break. There's a massive shortage in those, so that's a huge need. But there is a rule in Missouri, and I forget what it's called now, but in essence, the state trusts the foster parent to make choices on who gets to hang out with that child. And so they can, like, your brother can pick up your kid. Yeah. And so sometimes being able to say, like, hey, can I help transport your kid to something this week for you? And we'll put on tunes and I'll talk to them and it'll be great. Or if they don't want to talk to me, fine. Like, but I will do the driving for you. To 2 ways to one thing. I'll take your kid for an evening or for a night. Like, just some of those things can be incredibly helpful. Dinners obviously are a great ask, like just not having to think about food, not having to think about some of those things. I know so many foster parents that fall in the same boat as everyone else who's been mentioned. They're tired. And there's a lot of burnout that happens. And so sometimes they're making decisions that are coming from that place of I'm just exhausted. And a lot of up and down. There's a lot of moments of like, this is going really good. And you get like, I hate that saying that people say, like, I'm afraid I'd get too attached. Like, you get attached in foster care and then you get frustrated with your kid and you're frustrated with the case. You're excited that something happened. You're not excited. Like, there is so much up and down and there's no fault in that. It's just messy.
Yeah. And I mean, when I got involved at first and they said, the primary goal or the default goal or whatever is reunification, and I was like, great. Like, and that there was that part of, when I was thinking about LGBTQ kids, which is the way I had it in my head is not exactly the way it is on in real life or whatever, which is fine. But was that like when I came out to my parents, like, they told me it was wrong and they didn't agree with me. They and then I just decided, okay, I'm just not going to talk to you about this part of my life for a while. And I had the freedom to do that because I lived 2 states away and was going to college. But for a kid who's younger, like, I could see like a fight that makes them leave, or you can't do that under my roof, or something like that happening, and then give it some time and some space, and parties want to come back together, but maybe you don't know where your kid ran off to, or you can't find them, or something like that. So like if me providing a foster home would give parents and kids that space to come back together at some point, then great. Yeah, so I think I liked that idea, and also at the same time, and it's also kind of that weird, it's like a perfectly normal developmental stage for kids to be like, I don't need my parents, I'm 17, I know what I'm doing, I'm gonna be an adult, I got this. I did that when I was that age, right? And so like the mix between that and it's like, what do I like constantly saying, I'm not their dad. I don't, they don't, I'm like, well, no, I'm not. And I wouldn't expect you to think that I am. And so I think that there's pieces of that come into it. But I think too, one of the things I was going to mention is that I think I knew going in that the thing that was probably going to be the hardest would be the bureaucracy of it, would be like filling out the travel log reimbursement form, sort of like remembering to do that, getting it in on time or whatever, like the meetings, the things. Like my kid, one of my kids doesn't have their birth certificate, so like they can't go try to get a first job, they can't go get their permit, and they've been in care for like 2 years, so theoretically that should have been asked, like sent off for or whatever, and like put in the file years ago, and it wasn't for whatever reason. And when I went asking for it, because we were going to go get the kids permit, they've said they've sent off. It's not a Missouri one, it's in another state, and it's just like we're going on like 8 months of waiting for a birth certificate to show up from Nevada, and it's just like, seriously, like the kid just wants to go get their driver's permit. Like, can we just like try to have a little bit of normal? And it's just like, no, you can't have